there were moments where it was almost like I felt like I'd lost, moments where I was lost, completely lost, moments where I would even run from it, out of fear and out of anxiety and out of despair, of the unknown, moments of which at one times I could see where, oh my gosh, it's so clear. And then also moments in which it seemed like I felt as if I had nothing to hold on to at all. And I was just blowing in the wind, so to speak. So the emotions were everywhere. At some point, you experience it all.
None of us are worthy to be Dominicans, and none of us are worthy of being ordained priests. We all wonder, is this really for me? I don't feel holy enough. I don't think my prayer life is strong enough. I'm not as good as these other people. Can I do this? And the answer is, we all feel that way. None of us are where we want to be. We're all striving to be better. That's not the point of Dominican life. You come as you are, and then this is the pathway that you grow to be the person that you want to be, to grow into the person that God has asked you to become.
I had everything I wanted in a job, and it just wasn't enough, wasn't nearly enough. And so I think that God kind of gave me those experiences and used those experiences to give me what I needed so that I could say, this isn't the right path. I had already had inklings that Dominican life would be good for me and a life of holiness, but I wasn't willing to let go of these other dreams and other goals I had had for so many years. And so God, in His mercy, helps me gently to discover, where my happiness is going to be.
The biggest realization was ultimately that it's not about me choosing to be a priest right now, or me choosing to be married right now, because ultimately it can't be just my choice or just something I go about in a whim. But looking at the signs along the way, looking at what it is that God has given me, both the gifts and talents, in the best way which that might be perfected, not only for my own good, but for the good of others. What's a good size bread?
Never thought that I'm going to do something really radical. Actually, I'm going to do what God is calling me to, because my heart has been moved so much to preach His word, and He's changed my life in ways that I'll never be able to explain. You can't explain love in real terms. So when it came down to it, I just had to do this. There's nothing else I could do. I had to become a Dominican, give my life completely to God, to forego all the things that are normal for the average human being, which are all good, but this was a greater good for me. I didn't have to have anybody, tap me on the shoulder in the middle of the night, an invisible hand say, a voice coming from nowhere say, you need to do this. And that wasn't part of my discernment. It was, I love to do this. This is what God is calling me to do.
Lots of other ideas in vocation came and went, and at the end of the day, Dominican life was the one thing that I was willing to give up everything else for.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
And above all, I think it's listening to your heart. It's listening to the movement of prayer and to where the peace sets in. And I say peace and not comfort, because there's a very big difference. I could find comfort in a lot of things, but peace is something where you get, it's like a satisfaction that lasts.
God created us, and God created us with a purpose. And if God knows us, that purpose is written in our identity. the more and more we begin to truly understand who we are, the more and more we'll get to know what our vocation is. I had to first begin to know myself. I found the Dominicans and my being resonated with them. It was their preaching, and it is prayer.
Is known to be Dominican without ceasing to live out, of course, our core, living the contemplative life in poverty and preaching. And then with that,
the spiritual path that a man enters when he joins the Dominicans is a journey of self-exploration and hopefully ultimately self-discovery, to engage in a life of prayer, to enter into study of the most important questions that are out there.
My soul waits for the Lord more than sentinels wait for the dawn.
The community and the ministry help form a person. And I think in the order, I have been able to discover at a much more profound and deep level who I really am before God.
It is true what they say, that oftentimes we come for one reason and stay for another. We grow in self-knowledge only slowly, and one of the things I've come to realize lately is that things I didn't know about myself as well earlier, the Lord knew all along. The Lord knew how much I would need the support of the brothers in a way that I didn't quite appreciate when I first began.
There's discernment along the way. While the whole community is involved in the formation process, there are specific men that have been called forth from the community to be our novice master, for example, or student master. And it's really that these two Dominicans are most formative in a Dominican's early years. The help of the community, spiritual directors, your family, you will get feedback that helps you see whether or not this life is for you. And if it is, we say yes to one more step. And from that point, we move through our Dominican lives.
I know people that get married after 2 months. 2 months. That's not enough time to prepare to decide if you're going to love this person the rest of your life and commit. We get a minimum of 5 years. You can have more. 5 years to discern if this is right for you. And at any point, walk away from it and say, I tried, God, but obviously you're calling me to something different.
After I was accepted by the Dominicans, but was still in college, I had a woman come up to me, a former nun. She said, "Oh, you'll love the novitiate. I think everybody should have one." And having gone through it, I think that's true. I think a year devoted to the interior life, to prayer, to discernment was wonderful. And I think that even had I decided not to go forward, it would have been a really valuable experience for me.
I am convinced that if a man chooses to enter the Dominican order and stays for any length of time, he will be a better person for it. Whether or not he lives out the rest of his life as a Dominican friar, or if he discerns relatively quickly in his time with the order that this is not where he's supposed to be. I cannot see how taking the risk and entering the novitiate, trusting in God, could ever let a person down. I have seen in my own experience some of my classmates who along the way have discerned out of the order, and they relish their time in the order. They're grateful for what they've learned about themselves, what they've learned about others, and more importantly, what they've learned about God. And that kind of learning, that kind of human formation and spiritual, emotional, psychological growth can only benefit a man as he goes on to other and wonderful things in his life.